would have been round about 1972, 1973. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was in my bedroom, I had the radio on. It was Alan Freeman on a Saturday afternoon on Radio 1. And he played Life on Mars by Bowie. And I was just sitting in bed. I can't remember what I was doing, but I can remember the light coming through the window. I had the curtains drawn, they were yellow. So the whole room was bathed in this yellow light. And Life on Mars came on. And it just blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. And I was like, what the hell was that? 12 years old, and it's like, that was unbelievable. So I went out the next day with all my pocket money and bought the Hunky Dory album, and that was it. I was just sold. Those moments are once in a lifetime, but I can still picture the bedroom. I can still smell the bedroom. It was about 2:30 on a Saturday afternoon. It was just magical, absolutely magical. Music for me has always been there. When I was growing up, I had two older sisters. One was a mod, one was a rocker. So I grew up to the sound of Elvis, Buddy Holly, Cliff Richard, meets the Small Faces, met the Who, met the Beatles, met Stax. So I grew up listening to music. I got my first record player when I was 10 years old. And my first album was Small Faces, one my sister gave to me. I saw my first gig when I was 11. That was 1972. Status Quo, Portsmouth Guildhall. Upstairs in the balcony, 50p the ticket was. So it goes back that far. By the time I was sort of 12, 13, I was buying all the music papers every week, every Wednesday. NME, Sounds, Melody Maker. Music's always been an important part of my life, all the way through the glam days onwards. Bands that I sort of, like I say, grew up with, connected with, and have stayed with me. They didn't really appear until the punk days, sort of 76, 77. Obviously the Pistols, the Clash. The bands before that, they were more other people's bands. They were older than me. Loved them. Thin Lizzy, the Jailbreak album is an absolute classic. Slade, The Sweet, even the novelty ones, almost bands like Mud. They were there. They were the soundtrack to me growing up, going down the beach during the school holidays. Always had a radio with me when I went down there. So they were always on. But it was the punk bands that were my bands. Like I say, the Pistols, the Clash, the Jam. The Damned were the first punk band I saw. They played down the Mecca in 77 with Mark Bolan on what was his last ever gig. And they were just stunning. 30 minutes of absolute musical, intense mayhem. And that stuck with one of those things that just stuck with me forever. And seeing them on their 40th anniversary tour, it was like being back then. They was just exactly the same. Absolutely brilliant. But they're the bands I grew up with. They're the bands that were mine, for want of a better way of putting it.